second for you. Getting closer. Hey friends, welcome back to an episode of Getting Close Up, the show focused on independent artists and creatives. I'm your host, Danielle, and we are keeping it fly in here today. Why is that? Because of my next guest who built a brand that connects image, substance, and purpose. Today we are getting close up with Steven Hooks Jr. of UTM Studios. Hello, sir.
How you doing?
I'm good. I like the shades of the red tint.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wore these for like Red Friday for the Chiefs because I don't wear red that much, but that was my choice.
I think you could pull off red. I like that I can still see your eyes when I'm talking to you,
right.
so I think that's cool.
Because I can wear them inside and outside.
It is
That's
a good choice. It's a good choice. So I'm excited to have you here today. I find what you do to be super interesting because you really found a way to bind up all these different concepts and ideas that are centered around one thing, but it's also about finding what your substance is and what your purpose is.
Sure.
And aligning that with an image. And I just think that's really cool. So what I'm going to start with, though, is just a little bit of background on you. You've been involved in a lot of different ventures for yourself, a lot of different things. What has been your inspiration or what things were the inspiration for your business savvy?
I think the opportunities that I got early on.
Talk about that. What kind of opportunities?
So I would say starting out from high school. So my dad is in real estate. So my first intern job was putting a hut together, like stuff like that. Even though I don't remember now. Yeah. But it'd take me some time to get back into it. But like that was my first like intern job. So stuff like that. Doing things with like Nike back when I was like in high school, when they would come into the neighborhoods and do like we want to call those combines for high school kids. Okay.
So were you athletic or?
So I played sports. So I played basketball. I played basketball in college. So now I'm into fashion. So basketball's over for me, but I can still play every Tuesday. I play.
Now with the whole thing with Nike, like how did you get exposed to their brand? It kind of like gave you an idea of what you wanted to do. Sure.
So my aunt at the time, she was working with a lot of brands, whether that be here in KC or in California. So she pretty much asked me to help out. And this wasn't even at my high school. This was at Schlegel High School at the time. Okay. So they came into the inner city and I helped with that. And then I kind of stopped helping and then went, tried to like try out in the combine kind of deal for a little bit. And I came back to work and kind of deal. So. I know I was athletic, so I was like, why not?
You kind of had your feet in both things.
Yeah, in both. So, yeah, it was pretty fun. Stuff like that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So how did you get started in fashion, though?
In fashion, so both my grandmothers, my mother's mother and then my grandfather's mother, my great-grandmother, are both into fashion. So my mother's mother worked at Lee Jeans for like 25 years.
Was that a department store?
Lee Jeans, like
Lee Jeans. Okay, you said Lee Jeans. Got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like growing up, I was always take your kid to work. So I would see like the Buddy Lee dolls, the different patterns, the different jeans, the sewing machines, like the whole corporation. I got to see that from like yay high. And then my great grandmother, she she sews everything. Suits, hats, anything you could think of, dresses.
Put her church hats together.
Everything. I'm talking about whole outfits, top to bottom, except the shoes. But she taught me how to sew. Both of them actually taught me how to sew. So that was kind of my gateway into it, kind of deal. But really, it was like something for me to do while I was playing basketball, because I really didn't have a life during basketball in college. So it was just like it was sports only school. I was like, I got to figure something out. I'm not going to the NBA. So it was like, okay, what can I do? Let me create some T-shirts. And I created some T-shirts, started selling them out the kind of trunk kind of deal, and it kind of took off from there.
So what I'm hearing is, for your background is it was kind of like the entrepreneurial hustle side. You got to see that with your dad. Yeah. And then the creative side and like doing things with your hands, like getting in there, learning how to sew. Yeah. Because I don't know a whole lot of kids, boy or girl,
Not too many.
Just gonna sit up and learn how to sew and that type of thing. I mean, I have a similar background.
Sure.
I learned how to sew and crochet and stuff from my great grandmother because she did the same thing.
But did you ever take a sewing class in like school?
No.
See, I did.
Didn't have that.
So yeah, I took that, but probably my first class was maybe 7th, 8th grade or something like that. So I know a little bit of stuff then, but kind of picked it up after I got out of college.
Oh, that's
so,
cool.
Yeah.
But you still had an eye for fashion specifically. What type of things appealed to you in the fashion world?
Now or before?
Then.
So me and my brother, all my brothers, we all play basketball. My whole family's athletic, so the jerseys.
Oh, okay.
So every Christmas, I would ask for basketball jerseys I'm talking about like the shorts with the jersey. The whole thing, like I was like playing. So I got a whole bunch of jerseys kind of deal. That kind of started it. And I guess drawing the jerseys kind of deal and like different stuff like that with basketball and just the Slam magazines and how it was all basketball. And then it had the fashion side too, the East Bay. It's like one of those deals. I know you remember East Bay.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, it had everything in it.
It had everything in it. And it had crazy stuff, and then it had it just ran the gambit.
It had a little bit of everything.
It really
so like
did.
Stuff like that is kind of, I guess, inspired me. Fat Farm, Shine John, all that kind of stuff growing up.
A lot of those brands at that time. Aniche, oh my gosh, I ain't heard Aniche in a minute.
Echo.
That stuff is like
ancient,
vintage now.
right.
You come across a Aniche or an Echo, they're like, man.
I'm trying to think. I couldn't even. All my stuff has been given away to like Goodwill and all that kind of stuff. So I definitely don't have that no more.
There's people like hunting for that stuff.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. And then you had, Carl Kanai you had also?
Yeah, Carl Kanai. I actually met Carl Kanai.
You met him?
Yeah.
That's what's up.
I met him back in 2019. This was in Vegas. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So was that on a business thing?
So if anybody, Magic is like a big convention for manufacturers.
Oh, okay.
It happens in Vegas every year. Well, twice a year.
Is that an acronym or is it just
Magic? No, it's Magic events. It's all manufacturing from around the world. They meet in Vegas like I said, 2 times a year. One in August and then another one like January, February-ish. Yeah, and he was like one of the guest speakers that day.
Oh, that's awesome. And at that point in time, because I want to like parlay this into talking about UTM Studios and talking about your fashion brands and things like that. So at that point in time, were you just starting in your career, or is this a little bit later?
This is a little bit later. When I met Carl Kanai, is that what you're asking? So yeah, I met him back in 2019, and I was already doing UTM. I was already had a couple of brands actually under my belt. During that time, it was, like I said, I seen him. He was a guest speaker. He was getting ready to speak, and I asked to talk to him kind of deal. Asked him about his journey kind of deal, and he, went and elaborated about his journey once he got up there. But I was just like, man, I remember having my mom buying his clothes for me kind of deal. And then to actually see him, it's like, this is crazy. And he still looks the same as he does, as he did back in the day.
So
like, I don't know what kind of skin
it's
routine
surprising,
he on.
but it also ain't surprising.
Right.
But
it's just like, dang. He still looked the same, kind of deal.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So UTM Studios, you dubbed it as a creative agency.
Sure.
And there's a lot of things under that umbrella. So talk to me a little bit how you started with that idea and how it came about.
So, I mean, the reason I started because I was already doing all those things for other people. And not my own brand, kind of deal. So it's like, if I can do this for somebody else, I can do this myself.
True.
Especially like production, image consulting. I could do all that. I don't need to necessarily work with a company to get all this stuff done when I was already doing it. And I was pretty good at it. So I was like, why not start my own company kind of deal? And I did,
And what did it take to, was it specific steps made, or was it just kind of things that happened and came together that got you in the room with some of the brands that you've worked with? Because you've worked with many different brands. A
lot of brands. So let's go a little back. So when I worked with Revolt TV, I worked for them for like 3 years. And it was for the Revolt Music Conference.
Oh, okay.
So I would fly to Miami, work in production, work in integrated marketing, work with talent. So, but I was already doing that. It's like when I said I worked with the Chiefs, when I worked with Nike, I was already doing that back when I was like 16, 17. So like it kind of transitions like I can work with brands. Anybody can work with brands, you know. So I just said I could do it myself.
And what kind of work, like at 16, 17, because you mentioned Nike, your experience with that, and then you mentioned that your aunt had all that experience with the different brands. Is that where you really got the exposure to production and being behind the camera?
I would say so. I would say so because I remember like me and my cousin her daughter at the time was trying to be in a singing group, right? And she would take us to the studio. Like I wasn't trying to sing, I can't sing, but we were there and we just saw all that happen. And I think at that time, it was somebody that was close to like Beyonce Knowles or something that was kind of putting the group together, and they were here in KC. So we got to see all that like firsthand. And so I was exposed to stuff like that. And
another behind the scenes experience, like at Lee and Blue Jeans.
So
you kind of got to see how all the clockwork came together, and that was the part that intrigued you, obviously.
Right. Yeah, it did.
And in the market that you're in, for a creative agency and all the different things that you do, how competitive is that?
It's very competitive. If you don't have brands, you don't have a company. You know, if you don't have, you know, the network, the resources, any of that, you might as well call it quits kind of deal. Luckily, I am a one-person team now, so I necessarily just kind of have the network where I can call and say, I need this done, or this person needs an app, or this person, you know, needs a photographer. This person needs a private chef. Like when it comes to like events and all that kind of stuff that I do with UTM, I already had that network with all that I've done leading up to UTM. So,
and I was going to ask that.
I just kind of built that up and just kind of like I got my network.
Right. I was going to ask that because, you know, we're going to talk a little bit more about it too, but that's a lot of different event planning, production, image consulting, creative management, fundraising, all these different things. But you're working this off of connections that you've built with other people while you've just been out here working for them.
Right. Crazy.
So working for somebody else literally did help you build your business.
For sure. It definitely did.
And keeping in contact with people and, you know, weaving them into, well, it's like you have a Rolodex of people that you could just utilize for different things.
I do.
There was one thing down there.
I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, and I'm just
very thankful for that.
That's amazing because a lot of people, because they don't keep up with their connections and they don't understand that you have to sometimes do stuff for people too.
Sure.
They miss out on that.
Yeah,
and people, you know, are always like, people are always too busy and you try to get in this business and nobody wants to. Well, you got to kind of look at what you may have done to set that up.
You got to do some free work, you know, in order to get to where you want to be. I've done a lot of free work.
And you learn from that too.
For sure. I'll never do it again. I want to never say never. Never say never. Depending on the brand.
Yeah. Because in some situations, this could be an opportunity.
Sure.
And in some situations is yesterday's price ain't today's price.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
So you got to know how to do that.
Yeah.
Now tell me more about influencer marketing. Because I was like, okay, what is this about? That sounds like a brand new area being carved in. Tell me more about that.
So influencer marketing is pretty much, say, for instance, we have, let me just say, you, right? As an influencer that does podcasts, has their own business, all that kind of stuff. And then you have the social media side.
Right.
Brands love people like you know, and they're willing to pay for what you bring to the table, whether that be your audience, you know, no, your audience,
right?
Things that you talk about every day. Trying to think what else. I mean, it's a plethora of things that a brand is looking for influencer marketing. It just depends on depends on you and what you bring to the table in your follower count kind of deal. So,
and social media is such a tricky thing to navigate. It
yeah,
really is, because you kind of want to start. Everybody has this inclination to start with the people that they know,
sure,
right? But people that you know may not necessarily catch fire for things
sure.
as people outside of that bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where things really start lighting up. What would you say is the main mistake people make when it comes to marketing themselves in that type of social media or influencer space?
I would say probably, working with not really understanding their niche. So, like, if you're in fashion, do fashion. If you're into sports, do sports. If you're into comedy, do comedy. Just know that lane. Like, focus on that first. If you nail that down and you can make money with that, then you can venture into other things once you've got that down pat. A lot of people don't understand that, and they are confusing their audience of what they're really trying to do.
Oh, okay. That's really interesting. So, confusing your audience by, you people are kind of maybe following trends and jumping on that.
Well, brands are following trends. I mean, they're setting the trends, but a lot of people are following trends. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just you have to know you and your intention if you want to work with a brand or you don't want to work with a brand, or it's just like I said, just knowing your niche. Once you know what you're good at, do that.
Right.
That's it.
And maybe seeking out brands that align with your personal branding.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So what would you say, because personal branding is a word that's just like, it's always, it's very buzzy, but it's also a real thing.
Real, very real.
What would you say is the most integral part to discovering your brand?
All right, repeat that question one more time.
Yeah, like, so what's the biggest part of discovering what your brand is? Because you mentioned finding your lane, knowing your niche, but your brand, the way I understand it, kind of has a lot more to do with you and your purpose, like what it is that you want to do.
Sure.
So what is it you advise people when it comes to branding? Or maybe something people don't get all the time.
Yeah, I guess I would say with your personal brand, you really have to, with your personal brand, you just really got to know, you got to know you, what you do like, what you don't like. I'm not going to talk about anything in the medical field if I'm in fashion. I didn't go to school for that.
People probably should stay away from that.
Right, or
it's both use scissors, but they use them for different reasons in different ways.
I use medical, but like other things outside of what they do. Just sticking with what you know.
And really just know yourself.
Yeah, know yourself, and then, the brands will reach out if they really feel like they want to work with you.
If it's something they can connect with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they see what their audience, what they already established, and you align with that, then you'll get a call, email, something.
Now, with your foray into fashion, you have a men's sportswear line, or is this a sportswear? Women's sportswear line. Mm-hmm. So tell me about developing that and how all that came about, because that's another tough competitive space.
Very tough. I found that out real quick. So what I did was I picked the top 3 brands at the time that were hot. So you got Lululemon. Yeah. You got Nike. Mm-hmm. And at the time, it was Adidas. So those 3 were like the top in like women's active wear. Now in 2023, you have way more brands than there was before. So I pretty much took a piece of each one and said I wanted to add this, I wanted to add that, I wanted to add this, which makes up my garment, but from their inspiration of what they did before. And I reached out to a manufacturer and was like, can you do this, this, and that? And I sent that to about 100 different manufacturers.
Oh, okay.
2 came back, and I went with the company, and they sent me a sample, and it was like the best thing ever. So And I know nothing about textiles. I didn't go to school for textiles or anything.
Because that's
I just know fabric from my grandma's house.
Right. So, like,
and
what,
Joann's.
And then, too, being an athlete, you know what works for certain situations and how materials feel and things like that, which leads back to what you were saying about do what you know.
Yep.
It's people that have tried to build, I ain't gonna say no names or nothing, tried to build, brands of sportswear and stuff like that. And they're just doing it because they're like, okay, people are wearing yoga pants now. Yeah. So let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it falls off.
I didn't start it for that. Me and my partners did, and it wasn't my idea. It was my partner's idea. And this is like late at night. We'll go to this story. This is probably 2:00 in the morning. We're having a drink. He's cooking steaks. And he goes, I got this idea. He was in grad school at the time. And he had to write a dissertation paper, if I'm saying that right.
I'm going to say that's right.
Okay. And it was on activewear, or a company. It was on a company and how it transitioned from, like, it was on Lululemon, actually. So Lululemon back in, I don't know the date, 2007, 2009, maybe. Well, no, way back, farther than that. They had a deal with their pants. So the dye in the pants was bleeding on women that bought the pants.
Oh, I think I remember something about that.
And they recalled like 100,000 plus products kind of deal. And Lululemon pretty much said that it wasn't their fault kind of deal. Yeah, so stuff like, I think that's what happened in that. He wrote that in the paper. And then he came to me that night with the idea. It was like, I want to start an activewear line and I want to call it this. I was like, okay, what do you need me for?
Right.
Kind of deal. He's like, I need you for the design aspect kind of deal. I was like, okay, let me do some research. I'll get back to you like in 2 or 3 days. Came back with a plan and was like, all right, we're going to do this, this, and that. These are the manufacturers that I got, and we're just going to pick through them. If they say nay or yay, we're going to go with yay. Anybody that can't do this, I'm not even talking to them anymore. So, like I said, 100 manufacturers, narrowed it down to 2. It was a lot of work, but I'm glad we did that.
Yeah.
I'm glad we did that because that was going to be a lot of money lost. A lot of people don't understand working with overseas language barriers, all that kind of stuff.
Yes, a lot.
You're probably going to lose your money. Especially if you don't have nobody over there in those countries.
So have you had experiences where you learned a lesson from something like that going wrong for you?
Yes, in tech. So out of college, a buddy was starting a company that was building apps. And he brought me on for the front end side. So I was like, okay. There was an app at the time that was going to compete with Zillow.
Oh,
and I remember the budget that they spent on. So they raised about $250K. And one specific code that needed to be done was wrong, right? And they had to switch teams, developing teams.
And you're depending on that because you don't know anything about coding.
I don't know nothing.
Right.
I know nothing. I'm front end. I'm not back end, I'm front end. And they had to spend like $60,000 to fix that specific code in part of that app. And I was like, yeah, I'm good on that. I'm not going to do something like that just because you're trying to rush and get to market. Like with that stuff, you just can't rush it.
You just can't rush that.
And that goes with anything. You can't rush it.
Because then you run into something like the previous brand that you mentioned did, where they, have a huge problem because nobody did the checks and balances. And maybe, possibly, allegedly.
I would say no.
Ransom.
I mean, they were big. They were already big at that time, so
yeah.
I can see it getting lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, getting lost in the shuffle, and then you have to pivot and figure out what to do next, or just eat it.
Yeah. Basically,
which can cost a lot of money. Which for a company like them, that might not mean anything, but for somebody like you,
that's gonna hurt.
It's gonna hurt. It means a lot.
That's gonna hurt big time.
So as far as your ventures and looking towards the future, what do you see for your businesses going forward?
I see more clients in the sports world, whether it be MLS. I like MLB, but you normally don't see a lot of MLB players specifically um, in fashion. I mean, the last person you probably saw was Derek Jeter.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
You know,
and they're not really
or
known for
Mookie Betts now.
They're
but
really
like,
known for their fashion sense.
I got you. But do you know who those players are? You know who
Yeah,
Derek Jeter
I do.
is. So Derek Jeter, that's probably the last major, big baseball player that you've seen like into fashion kind of deal. But like I said, more clients, whether it be MLS, which is becoming a bigger sport in the country.
Soccer is huge.
You know, we're getting World Cup.
Yep.
In 2026, so that's gonna be special. MLS, NBA, NFL in season right now. So getting more clients like that, but I'm open to any kind of client, any space, whether it be tech or whatever. So.
And what are the brands looking for from you?
The brands will meet to connect to the players. So I'm the bridge between the brand and the player. The brand is always looking to work with up and coming talent. So, like I said, I'm the bridge between that. So if I have a connection with that brand and I'm going to put my client in it, or I don't know this client at all, but that brand wants them, I'm going to reach out kind of deal. So.
Got you. So it's just like, again, the connections that you've established, you know how to get them into the hands of the right people.
Sure.
And that's really where it is.
Yep.
It's about connection.
That's it.
Consistently. I see
really
that as a common theme. So what's next for you? What do you have going on right now?
Right now, like I said, NFL is in season right now. So picking up a couple of players to do styling for a couple of games this season. The tunnel is
I didn't even think about that.
It's the new catwalk now. So
I didn't even think about that.
That's
okay.
Yeah. So with that being in season, NFL and NBA starting in October.
Yeah, NBA, they definitely do
that's
it there.
That's my goal right now.
They do it big there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
MLS is coming up though. Not every team has their catwalk kind of deal, but
yeah, but once they get approached, it becomes a thing.
Yes and no. It depends on, if that team wants to do that. And I would say specifically with sporting, that's not their idea kind of deal. It has to be, one, you have to have the players that are actually stylish. Not saying that there's not any players on the Sporting KC that are not. It's got to be something that the team is open to.
And it sounds like it's probably a new space for them.
I feel like all teams should be open to it.
Right. No, I get that.
I said a while back that with COVID and everything, shopping, all that kind of stuff is pretty hard, all that. But that catwalk is, not everybody can go to Fashion Week, whether it be in Paris or New York.
That's true.
Or Milan or wherever.
That's true.
So that catwalk is the new in the tunnel, walking, from your car to the stadium.
And that's all it takes, just those few minutes.
That's it. It's only like 20 seconds, like maybe 3 or 5 minutes.
That's crazy.
Walking from the car to the to the locker room.
From the bus or whatever.
And it gets millions and millions of views, kind of deal, which is crazy.
It's just new niches being created every single day, it seems like.
Yeah.
So tell the people that are watching and listening where they can find you, where they can keep up with you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, Steven.Hooks. My website, UTMstudios.online. And that's pretty much where you can find me.
That's what's up. Well, thank you for being here. It was a great conversation. Very interesting, because that's a whole world that I don't think people really are familiar with or understand. So I thank you very much for sharing that with us today. And that's it for this show. Again, I'd like to thank my guest, Steven Hooks Jr., for being with us today. And if you like what you saw, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, give us your feedback. The links that he gave will be in the description box below. New episodes are getting close up, air bi-weekly on Fridays. So make sure you check us out. Don't miss it. And the week after, on the next Friday, make sure you check out me and D on GCU Reviews, where we give you the tea on what's hot and what's not. It's a great time. Again, I thank you guys for watching. Thanks for showing up. and liking and commenting. I love interacting with you all, and I'll see you again soon for another close up. I'll be checking for you.